Hey, this is Paul with LSP Data, and in this video, I'm going to teach you how to find your own off-market deals. So where you get a competitive advantage over everyone using the same products like PropStream or every single guru that you watch on YouTube that's trying to get you to sign up for their platforms, right? So currently, the screen I'm sharing is I'm going to touch on each of these areas where you can find, so like I said, your own competitive advantage of where you can lead your own data sources. Because essentially, whether you're a big commercial company or a small, or you're doing your own operations, maybe you have a little more time on your hands, maybe you're a bit techie, right? This is some areas where you can go and find and source your own leads, right? Again, if you have a budget, if you just want to focus on marketing or operations, it makes sense to go to vendors. We provide these records as well. So obviously we're in the same kind of business of helping you out, right? If you want to focus on that. But back to this picture here. So mentioned there's different areas where you can find relevant information regarding real estate, right? A lot of this depends on how open your state or county may be. So there's a caveat that not every county or city or state is going to have the same information available. For the most part, just going to use this as our use case, right? So we'll start off with the appraisal district, right? So the appraisal district is typically where all the properties are appraised, right? So every year, the county will appraise your property, and depending on the state that you're in, let's say in Texas, your property may be appraised for more, so you end up paying more taxes and whatnot. But for in this area, this is the area that you can find things like absentee owned, right? Primarily because you get information about the property, what kind of property it is. If you're looking for land, this is the area that you want to focus on as well. A bit of interesting information is that sometimes going directly to the county appraisal district data, that's where you're going to come up with land parcels, because a lot of commercial platforms, regardless of which one you use, they actually don't include land parcels because a lot of them have a zero, right? So mean that the property itself hasn't been, the land hasn't been developed. So this is where you're going to find those land parcels, especially throughout Texas, big acreages and whatnot. So again, I can guarantee you that a lot of platforms that you're using right now, because your favorite guru told you to use them and you're paying them money, is not getting you the results that you're interested in, right? So anyways, that's one of the competitive advantages that you can get from here, right? And obviously you can see who the current owner is and what is their mailing address, right? So the way you find absentee owned is if the primary, like the site address, right, the actual physical address doesn't match the mailing address, that just means that that property is absentee owned. Most likely the owner has multiple properties, right? The other bits you can find is, for example, sometimes the owner may show up as state of, right? So let's say state of whatever name. Typically means that the person that owned it has passed away, and most likely they may be going through a probate process, right? And the other bit you can find is the tax exemptions. So some in the property data itself, you may find indications that the person is over 65 years old, or they're maybe they're a veteran, or they have other kind of tax exemptions as well. So that's where you can get this information. And again, all your commercial software, whether it's PropStream or Atom Data, everywhere else, this is where they get the information as well. And obviously, they have their own ways of pulling. It's hard to tell how frequent they pull this information, right? And if you have smaller counties that have less resources, it's more difficult to get this data. So if you are working in a smaller county, you probably have 99% more competitive advantage compared to anyone with a computer, because sometimes they may give you this in an email format or even in a CD at some points. But anyways, that's the appraisal district bit, which is where you can get all the information, right? I made another video, and I'll add the link as well for our data repository, so that way you can find your own appraisal district site. You can download your own records, right? So Moving on, the county district clerk, right? There are civil and criminal records bits, right? This is where you can see your foreclosure information. Maybe your people that are tax delinquent, right? They fell behind their taxes, so they have some sort of lien as well. Divorce data, felony conviction. Sometimes people may commit crimes and they are property owners, so means that they're no longer going back to their property as well. But on this particular one, like I said, you can find things like liens, list pendants. You can find affidavit of ownership. There's a lot of information that can give you context around a specific distress situation, right? That may lead someone to want to sell their property. Obviously, you are trying to help whatever situation there is, right? So it just depends how you want to approach it, right? But this is from the county district clerk. Other information that you can find here is around HOA evictions as well. So, or HOA liens, I should say. So where the HOA can kick off a foreclosure proceeding as well. So a lot of this area would also include those type of informations, right? The other bit, this justice of peace court, right? This is where you'll find the evictions. So this is areas where you find debt claims as well. So if someone has credit card debt, or maybe their debt has been sold to collection agencies, this is the other area that you can find in. Based on our own data, analyzing this data, it seems like this type of information will get you ahead of the pre-foreclosures, because obviously if someone has certain financial distress situations, right, it may take a few months for them to maybe start missing mortgage payments and whatnot. So a lot of times this is early indicators of someone who has a distress situation as well. Moving on, vacancy data, specifically USPS vacancy. So USPS, if they attempt to deliver the mail after 2 weeks, I believe, maybe more or less, they may flag your property as vacant, right? Meaning that no one's picking up the mail, so they may stop delivering and just holding it at the postal office, right? So this USPS vacancy gives you indicators, right? Even when you're doing something like driving for dollars, a lot of times you may visually inspect, the properties around your neighborhood to see if, maybe no one's picking up the mail, or, if there's physical distress like high grass and whatnot. You can pair that with the USPS vacancy and then just get an idea if that property is truly vacant, right? I made one video covering this. So there's platforms like regrid.com, which it's pretty cheap to sign up, but this is one area where you can get USPS vacancy information. Otherwise, you won't be able to sign up for it unless you're a nonprofit or if you work a deal with them as well. The other bit is code violations, right? I know a lot of people focus historically on water shutoff lists, and a lot of those specifically around Texas are getting more difficult to get, right? There's a lot of changes in privacy in general, and again, a code violation, you can get them from the Public City Works. I also made a video on how you can get this, so again, I'll add that to the description. But code violations are a pretty good way to also determine if a property is distressed, right? There's things like nuisance in properties, illegal dumping. There may be structural issues, right? There's a lot of indicators there, right? Every city may either have a description or they may have a code where they tell you, okay, 123F means that there's junk vehicles in the property, right? So just it's very dependent upon your city, so you may have to do a bit of your due diligence, right? And this is the kind of information where maybe if you come across their city ordinance around code violations, you can grab that information, maybe ask ChatGPT to identify which ones are more relevant to real estate distressed properties. So that way you can condense those and focus on the ones that matter, right? Again, a lot of this information, specifically this, may give you the address, but it's not going to have the ownership information, right? And that's why you compare, whatever information you get from here, you're going to end up either getting first name, last name, and a mailing address. From the code violations, you may just get the property, but that's the importance of having the appraisal district data here, because that's where you compare the two, right? And later in this video, I'll show you from our platform how we're accomplishing all of this. Again, we're a data company, so the point of going with us is because you're saving your time and maybe you're not technical, and all you want to do is focus on marketing and closing deals, right? You don't have time to learn all these technical things, and that's why you have experts like us doing this work for you, right? The heavy lifting. But anyways, code violations, again, really good resource to finding true distressed properties, right? The other bit with code violations is that a lot of times you end up getting fined, right? If you are not taking care of the property, city inspectors may come and add that orange or yellow warning sign, right? That says you have a code violation, and eventually, the city's gonna fine you. So they're getting their money from you, right? And again, if you have multiple code violations, that might add up. And for someone who A, doesn't care about their property, or B, they don't have the means to pay for it, or maybe they just don't live in the city, right? Those are some opportunities that you can find that the data won't be in other big commercial platforms, right? A lot of times I find myself, a lot of folks are asking where to find buyers, right? So interesting enough, a lot of real estate agents, you yourself can sign up for a real estate agent a permit or license, at least in Texas, some states. And this information is public, so you can download a list of everyone, real estate agents. And again, look at two things. One is the name and the mailing address. If those match the appraisal district of the owner and mailing address, then that's your buyer, right? And a lot of times we can see historical transactions of, a person here having 5 to 10 properties, right, or multiple properties. And that's over time we came to that realization that a lot of people are signing up to get the real estate agent license because they want access to the MLS or the multiple listing, right? Why? Because that's the early stages. If you can get access to MLS, right, one, it helps you identify newly listed properties, so you can easily reach out, right, and obviously advertise yourself. But two, it gives you access to better comps, right, because you have historical transaction data, helps you calculate the after repair value and all that good information, right? So there is another area that many people might not know of. And lastly, another area that we like is the service request. So your city may call it 311 or service request or complaints, right? This information basically feeds the code violation, right? So if you in your neighborhood, city, you come across a property that's not being taken care of, right? Maybe the house is caving in, or maybe you're a tenant and the property is not in great condition, right? Maybe there's mold inside, maybe there's water leakage, etc. If you're dealing with a slumlord or someone who doesn't care, right, your last resort is to call the city, right? And a lot of times you end up raising this through 311, which those complaints eventually get investigated by the city inspector, and it ends up leading to code violations, right? So this is a really good resource, before getting to that code violation. And again, the only information you're getting here is the property address and nothing else. But again, having that appraisal district data or the parcel information, right? We can also call it parcel. That's going to be key, right? So you could say the primary thing of value is this appraisal district parcel data or appraisal district data, because this has, the property, what type of asset class is it? Is it single family, multifamily? Is it in-lot, infill lots? Is it vacant property, right? And again, depending on your state, you may get the first and last name of the owner. So this is a pretty extensive list of places that you can find leads yourself, right? I know you can look into the county clerk foreclosure pages, which are typically in PDF, right, format. So that's it boils down to the barrier of entry, right? Some of the information is not as easy to get, so you're not going to find it in big commercial software, right, where everyone else is looking at. And I think for our point of view, we get a lot of people come in through our platform because they're not happy with the providers, because everyone's watching the same YouTube videos and pulling the same exact filters in big cities. So by the time you call that property owner, they already someone called them 20 times, 30 times or more, right? Because individuals watching the same YouTube videos. But I digress. Just wanted to show you where you can get this information, since it's not rocket science, but it does take time and a technical understanding of this, right? Again, we did a lot of the hard work for you to research where all the parcel information is at. Also, some of this code violation work as well, or the service request, I should say. So I'll include that in the descriptions, right? And we'll leave it at that. I'm gonna try to make a series. If you are interested, I will make a series of each one of those areas, and to show you how you can get this information yourself. And that's how you do it. Now I want to show you an example of how this information all comes together, right, to make it meaningful. So let's say we're looking to code violations here, right? So again, let's look at code violation, this area here. And 2 areas or 3 areas that we're going to touch on here are the parcel information, right, the ownership information, and then the code violation. So here, if I come here, as you can see, it's we refresh this data on a daily basis, right? If we're interested in specific code violation, we can go to code concern here, maybe boarded house, building permits, right? We can easily search this information here, and you can see that there is a lot of complaints or code violations, right, as well. We can also see if there's any specific properties that are vacant, right? As you can see here, this home has been broken and bulk trash and whatnot, right? We have the ownership information, but I'm not going to show the entire thing, but I'm going to quickly scroll so you can see the property descriptions, right? There you go. So that way you can see that this is a single family property, the type of property, whether it has one bedroom, bathroom, how was it appraised, right? A lot of times the appraisal district will tell you if the property is in good, medium condition and whatnot, right? But again, this is a good example of how the data can come together, right? And again, if you know what you're doing, great. You can create a basic database, right? My advice would be create a basic database. It makes it easier for you to query it or filter it, right? But if you don't want to do the hard work, right? Obviously, we're a data provider, so you can reach out to us and we can help you, specifically if you have niche areas, right? So our focus is niche data. We're not trying to compete with the big fishes, right? Because they have limited resources. We don't, but we know what we're doing. So if you have any data questions, feel free to schedule a Zoom call and let's discuss. Again, we're only focusing on people that are interested in the platform, right, to become a customer. So the reason why I make these free videos is to answer all of your questions. I know a lot of you want to build your own real estate platform, so I'm giving you so much value information here already. But if you want to jump on a call, it's because you're interested in our services and because you want to focus on closing deals, right? You're not looking to waste anyone's time. You just want to pull the list, skip trace it, start calling, start closing deals, right? That's the kind of customers that we're interested in. If you want the free route, then watch the videos that I created. But with that, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment, send us an email. If you're ready to talk business, let's jump on a Zoom call. I'll include the calendar invite as well. Thank you for watching.